Okay, so today is Monday, October 14th, and today I learned and kind of figured out a system or I guess it's not really a system, it's just something that you can do when you are having breaks in between your focus sessions. Because today, I wasn't super productive, right? It's a Monday, and I was just trying to push through the work that I need to do, and I was doing okay. When I am not being super productive and I can't really focus, I just set a 20 to 25 minute timer, try to focus for that amount of time, and then take like a 5 or 10 minute break. So that is what I was doing. But every time I do that, or every time I take a break, like within my work, I always end up wasting time, like wasting that break. And I'm not actually using the break for what it is meant for. And I end up like scrolling or just like watching a random video or like something like that, you know? And because I wanted to not let that happen today, I recorded a voice memo actually, and I was just thinking out loud, trying to figure out how can I make these breaks a little bit more effective. And I figured out how to do this. So that is what this video is about, how to have effective breaks. In order to get to that, we need context, right? What is the point of a break? Like, why are we taking a break in the first place? Well, first of all, it's a very basic fact that taking breaks, when you're trying to have deep work or deep focus sessions, taking breaks is really, really helpful. And it recharges you and helps you with your focus. As long as you use that break well, because a lot of us use those breaks just as like a reward for focusing, and then we waste that break away and it doesn't actually help us and it actually hurts us. So that's the whole point, like that's why I'm making this video, how to have effective breaks and how to make sure we're not wasting our breaks away. So it helps with our focus and helps with our performance. So what performance? The first thing you need to do in this little protocol is to make sure you have clearly defined goals for your focus session. What is the point? Like, what are you focusing for, basically? It's a very simple question. You don't have to think too hard about it. Just what are you focusing on? What are you working on? So today, the thing that I was struggling to focus on was my anatomy. I'm taking anatomy and physiology right now, and I don't like it very much, so it's hard to focus on it. And yeah, that is the thing that I'm trying to focus on. Like, that is the goal of the focus session. So once we have like this big picture idea, we understand why we're taking a break because we know it's helpful, and we understand like what the whole point of this whole situation is. Like, we know what the point of this focus session is. So this big picture basically just shows that you're focusing on something, and the breaks are just serving that focus session, or should at least serve the focus session. They're not, yes, you can use breaks as more of a reward, but more often than not, if you are doing multiple sessions in a row, like multiple chunks of focus sessions in a row, then you're trying to serve the next focus session, right? So, how can we do this? How can we actually have effective breaks and effective rest time in order to rest and recharge for the next focus session? So notice I mentioned two things, resting and recharging. So these are the two things that you need in every single one of your breaks. If you are doing like a deep work, deep focus session and you're taking a break, you need a rest phase and you need a recharge phase. So I'm going to go over both of them. The first one is the rest phase. You need to be resting your brain. You have focused for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, however long, and you need to rest your brain. Like, you need to cool it down in a way. Now, the number one thing that I'm going to tell you to do, if you take away anything from this video, it would be to not go on your phone on breaks. I know the urge and the temptation is there because you're like, oh, it's my break time, so now is my reward time, so I can just go on my phone and do what I want. That is something that we have all done, or at least I've done that. And if you take anything away from this video about trying to have more effective breaks, it would be to not go on your phone on your breaks. I know it is tempting, but if you want effective breaks and you want your next focus session to be optimal, then don't go on your phone during that break. Because, I'm giving you a reason why, because the whole point of this rest phase is to rest your brain. You have focused for a long time, and your brain has all this information that you've learned or have used or whatever, and you need to rest your brain. And using your phone, scrolling on your phone, is only going to fill it with more information. So it's not like it's harming you more than it is helping you, because once that break is done, your brain is just overloaded and you have so much information and you can't focus. You can't use your working parts of your brain to focus on your task. So that is why you should not go on your phone during break times, because it just overloads your brain even more, and it hurts you more than it helps you. So that is why. So what are things that we can do during this rest phase of our break? What are some things that we can do that help us rest our brain and help us to just not fill it with things, not have it worry about things, just rest it so that we can recharge and have the next focus session? Few examples. The first thing, for me today, there was something on my mind that was just really stressing me out. And when that kind of thing happens, write it down. When you are stressed out by things, write it down. It is the most helpful thing, either to just capture it and think about it later, or to break it down. So it's very helpful to write down what you're stressed about, just as a general rule. But if your mind is on something during this break time, then just write it down to work on it later, to analyze later, to break down later. And because again, let's think back. We're trying to serve our next focus session. We're trying to rest our mind, and we don't want to fill our mind with more anxious, worrying thoughts. We can just set it aside for later, write it down, put it in your reminders, put it in your notes app, whatever, and work on it later. Another thing that I really like to do, just in general for focus, not necessarily during my breaks, but before I focus, if I am struggling to focus and I my brain is super full and I just can't focus on this thing, this is something that I've talked about previously, but it's really helpful to meditate. Now, I know meditation has a weird meditation, but I'm not saying that you need to do a 10-minute guided meditation where you're sitting cross-legged and you're closed eyes and you're just meditating. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, for me at least, this helps me focus a lot. I don't know how it works, but it works. I'll basically just sit in my chair, eyes closed or not, it depending on how I feel. Sometimes I close my eyes, sometimes I don't. I just sit there and do nothing. So you're not necessarily meditating, but you're just trying to absorb your surroundings and not think about anything. That's kind of the whole point. So this is something that has always helped my focus, and this is something that you can do to reset your brain, to rest your brain before your next focus session. So either meditate, you could do an actual meditation thing where you're closed eyes, focusing on your breathing, all that kind of thing. But for me, it just helps to sit there and do nothing. Not think about anything. It is helpful to focus on your breathing because that's something you can think about, because our brains can't really not think about something. So your breathing is a helpful thing to think about. But sometimes I just think about what am I hearing? What do the birds outside sound like? Or I focus a lot on sounds. I have found it's very helpful to focus on sounds. But yeah, that is another thing that you can do to rest your brain. Meditate, or just sit there, do nothing, and observe your surroundings and try to not think about things. And if you're constantly being bombarded with thoughts, write them down and then focus on your breathing or focus on your sensory information. A few more things that help me and should help you to rest your brain. Listen to music, especially just instrumental music. No lyrics, just listen to music and clean your room, declutter your desk, maybe reset your desk for your next focus session. I like to just declutter a little bit around my room. I'm sure you have shoes lying around or clothes that need to be folded, and those are things that you can do. You're to rest your brain. You're just listening to music, not thinking about anything, just doing these simple tasks, and it really helps rest your brain because you're not really thinking about what you're doing. It doesn't require much brain power. Last two, the first thing, I don't do this that often, but if you have a water bottle or if you have snacks or something, now is a good time to go refill that water bottle or go restash your snacks. because those are not only a great motivator, like while it's like it builds a great environment for your focus session, but also it's just a mindless thing you can do during your breaks. Drink water. Water is good for you. That kind of thing. And then the last thing that you can do to rest your brain is to exercise. Now, I'm not saying you need to do like a full like ab workout that's like super intense. I'm just saying maybe bring your heart rate up a little bit. Either walk outside, like walk for 5 minutes. If you went to like go get snacks or like refill your water bottle, like that counts. Like you're just walking to go get something. Like walk around, maybe do a few push-ups, maybe do like a plank or something. Those have helped me. Just exercise, because I'm actually learning in my anatomy class. I already knew this, but it's just cool to learn it in my anatomy class, that exercise is really good for your memory and your retention. So it's got a double plus side to it. Exercise is good for you. So those are just a few examples of some things that will help you rest your brain. Part of this rest phase of your break. Just things that you can do to rest your brain. Try to not think about anything except like basic sensory information like the birds or filling up your water bottle or whatever. Some things to rest your brain. So that is the rest phase. And then the next phase is the recharge phase. So once you have rested your brain, once you get close to your focus session, closer, then you can start to kind of prepare your brain and recharge your brain to get prepped for what you're going to do in that next focus session. Make sure, just as a baseline, like I said earlier, make sure you have a clear goal of what is your goal for the next focus session, whether it's the same thing that you did in the last focus session or a completely new thing. Just make sure you have a clearly defined goal for your focus session. And so a couple things that you can do, 2 different situations for which you are going to prep or recharge for your next focus session. If you have a short time, like if you're taking a 5-minute break and you took up 3 of those minutes to go to the bathroom and fill up your water bottle, then you only have 2 minutes, right, to recharge for the next focus session. I would recommend, I tried doing this today and it actually kind of worked. Just start thinking about your next focus session. Just start thinking about, like, I'm thinking mostly of like a study session because I think that's most applicable to this. But let's say you're having a study session. In the last focus session for 20 minutes, you were learning about like the nervous system, right? That's what I was learning about. And so once you get close to your next focus session, just start thinking about what you remembered. Start thinking about what you remembered, what you learned, what things you applied during the last focus session. So for me, I was thinking about like, okay, so the nervous system, it's got like the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system, and there's like neurons and like the structure of neurons and blah, blah, blah. Like, start just thinking about like kind of refamiliarizing yourself with what you learned in the last focus session. And then you can transition right into your next focus session because you know, like, your brain has been prepped and your brain is like, okay, yeah, I actually remember what we're talking about, let's go. And you can just transition right into your next focus session. So that is if you have a shorter time. If you have a longer time, let's say you have a 20-minute break, right? And you like did some push-ups, you filled up your water bottle, you meditated for a little bit, and you have 10 minutes left. And you have the sudden urge, or not sudden, but you have the urge to open your phone, right? Don't open your phone, remember? That's the general rule, don't open your phone during these breaks. So what can you do? Okay, so there are a couple things you can do. The first thing you can do, which I think most of us will be opposed to this because we don't want to start our focus session before our focus session starts. Like, there's a reason why it's a break. But one thing you can do is, like, not only start thinking about what you're going to do in the next focus session, but think about it in, like, a deeper way. If you know what the Feynman technique is, that's basically just teaching the thing. So you can start just teaching out loud to yourself, like, what did you learn? Just walk around even. Like, I like to walk around and talk. So, like, when I'm studying and stuff. So just walk around and, like, talk about what did you learn in the last session and how do you think this next focus session is going to, like, connect to what you just did. And yeah, it takes longer. It's helpful to just review in that way. But the downside is that you're, in a way, starting your focus session before your focus session. So some of you might not want to do that. So for those people, which is going to be most of you, right? What can you do with these larger chunks of time where you feel the urge to grab your phone and you're just like taking a break, right? I would say something that I like to do is that all those thoughts that you wrote down from before, those thoughts that were stressing you out, or maybe you just wanted to analyze or whatever at a later point, you can use these 10 minutes to like think about those. I think this is a much better use of your time than just filling your brain with like videos and videos and videos. I think it's just a much better use of your time to just think about the things that have been on your mind and just try to break them down a little bit, even if it's just for 10 minutes, right? You have a short break, but you can still use that time productively for other things, such as finding those things that you wrote down and just think about them a little longer. So yeah, that is my little protocol for having effective breaks. This is just something that I was just thinking out loud earlier, and I just recorded a voice memo and fleshed it out a little bit before I recorded this, and it is something that helped me really today because I was struggling to focus and because I wanted to make sure that my breaks were effective. This actually really helped me. So whether you have a 5-minute break, a 10-minute break, a 20-minute break, an hour break, although I'm not sure if that's super effective use of your time, but however long your break is, you can use this protocol to make that break effective. Make sure you're resting your brain and make sure you're recharging your brain. Rest it with things that are mindless, such as listening to music, go and get some water, fold your laundry, do mindless things, do some exercise, that kind of thing. And then you need to recharge your brain. So prep your brain for your upcoming focus session, like review what you just think about. You don't need to like review, but just think about, try to actively recall what you learned in the last focus session and how that's going to be helpful for your next focus session. So if you found this video helpful, then definitely click the like button. If you clicked on this video because you are on a break right now, then definitely comment down below, what are you focusing on? Like, what is your goal for your next focus session? Try to apply this protocol because I think it was really helpful for me, so I'm assuming it'll be helpful for you guys as well. You got this. Your next focus session is gonna be a banger, and if you want to see more, then definitely subscribe because I am posting every single day daily insights talking about what I learned today and how I'm trying to apply it to my life and how you guys can apply it to yours. Today, I believe this is the 101st video that I have posted. Just overall, so I've passed the 100 upload mark, which is a very, that's really cool for me. If you want to see a video that's specifically made for you, like YouTube picked this video out just for you, then that's going to be right here, but don't click on that video if you need to focus. Like if you're on a break right now and you're about to have another focus session, do not click on that video. I am telling you right now, don't click on that video. Subscribe. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. Bye. That was a banger. Oh, I did it again.